Hey guys and gals, this is part 2 of our interview with Kevin King. Make sure to go back and listen to part 1 if you haven't checked that one out yet. Just a quick reminder to subscribe on whatever platform you're using. Thanks so much, and enjoy the rest of the show.
So I got to ask you the question. Did you stick with the strippers?
No.
No, you did get out of the business.
Yeah, we did it for a while. We got out of the stripper business, and we still deal with models.
Yeah.
For a while, and still to this day, we publish calendars that have models on them.
Right.
That's one of my. I have 8 businesses right now that I'm involved in running, and one of them is a seasonal calendar business that we print. That's why the Amazon stuff came natural for me, because I've been creating products overseas for a long time, been dealing with all that. We used to do really high-end collectibles in the collectible space. We would do gold signatures. We get the model signature
Mhm.
and actually put it in one card with a gold ink, gold like a foil all over it, and put it in this nice plastic case that you would put like a bar of gold in or something. We did a lot of really high-end collectible product creation stuff. But that whole market, the trading cards, the internet stuff, the TV stuff, we did really well for that for a while. I mean, it's all kind of evolved. Businesses change and things change, but the one thing that's been remained constant is calendars. We have a base of 6,000 customers that every year buy calendars from us. And then with the advent of Amazon and Calendar Club and some of these others, we wholesale out to them, and it does really, really well. It's not a big business; it's on autopilot kind of now, but we built it over 20 years to where we have a built-in audience, recurring revenue. We print in South Korea, and our landed cost is I think this year's $1.43 landed DDP cost, and we sell for 19.95, and we sell quite a few. So it's and now with Amazon blowing up, the sales on Amazon are crazy. And then we have our own direct to consumer list. We actually mail out a little catalog. We print a catalog and mail it out and sell directly to our consumers. And then we started with, we have our 5 or 10 calendars that we make, but there's hundreds of these out there, and so we actually became a distributor for everybody else. So to actually maximize revenue, rather than just selling ours to people, we would put ours and put them bigger and put them on the front cover and prime positions. And then we'd say on this catalogs, oh, by the way, we have these other 100 ones here that we would just buy as a distributor, buy wholesale from people in Australia, California, Canada, UK, whatever, of pretty girls. That whole catalog, I'm sorry, is pretty girls. So it could be girls in bikinis fishing, girls dressed like firefighters, 1940s pinup art that you would see on airplanes in World War II, to Playboy Playmates, to whatever. Anything to do with pretty girls. We tested where we added guys, and they just it didn't sell to the women. And we tested where we added like firemen and scenic stuff, and it just didn't sell. But our little niche that we found was pretty girls, and it still works to this day. I mean, because calendars are something that a lot of guys like to hang in the garage or put up or whatever, and it's a recurring revenue. Every year you got to have another one. But selling calendars is like selling milk, because they go bad. It's not like a lot of products where if I don't sell them this holiday season, it's okay. I'll sell them in the spring or next year. No, calendars are dated, so come Christmas, if you got a lot of inventory left, you're screwed. You got to start figuring out how to get rid of that stuff really fast. So it's a balancing act on inventory, and the picture you put on the cover can determine your sales big time. So from year to year, sometimes we run out in early December. Other years we got stuff we're liquidating at the end of January. It just depends. Um, but it's a really good business, and you would think, well, guys buy a calendar to hang up on their garage. Our average order is over $100 from consumers. We have a guy in Canada in Calgary that buys $3,000 from us every year of calendars, and these are not in quantity. One calendar, he buys one calendar, this one of this one of this one. So we have 100 different calendars or so. He'll buy one of each, and sometimes he buys two of his favorites, one to open, one to keep in the shrink wrap as a collector, not to ever open. And we have a lot of people like that. So our average order is over $100 from individual consumers, not buying wholesale, just collecting for themselves. So, and we really understand that market and the psychology and how to market to them and everything. So it it it's a good little business.
And that's a lesson learned because you're sticking to a niche and you're killing it.
No, yeah, we stick to that niche, and it's not a 7-figure huge business, but We've got it now to where it's two people running it, and it throws off six figures. So if I want to, the average person could live off of the profits off of that. Have a nice living, probably, but I would be bored if that's all I did. So that's why I have all these other companies too.
We were talking to Andrea Lake earlier today, and one of the things that she came across and said she sells T-shirts. Well, she's and her partners sell $1 billion worth of T-shirts. She teaches people how to sell T-shirts, and she said, "Look, you don't have to sell $1 billion. All you have to do is sell $2,500, and you're changing somebody's life." And that's very
Hmm.
similar. Like you're talking about calendars and not having to do a million. Well, hey, if you can go and find a product and sell it and make a few extra $1,000 a month, that's life changing, especially in times like we're in today. I mean, you're lucky that you're involved. Not lucky, you're successful because the way that you do your research, the things that you get involved with. But with a lot of people, they think that they have to make $1 million in sales to be successful, and this is completely untrue.
No, you need to make enough money to support the lifestyle you want to live. If your
That's it.
dream if your dream is to be on a yacht and fly first class everywhere, you need to make more money. But
Yeah.
for a lot of those people are miserable. If you're happy living on 50, 60,000 a year and that covers your bills and allows you to do what you want, then don't try to make a million. I mean, my motto in life, it derives from this because so many people think money is the almighty God, and everybody is, I got to make more money. I got to make more money. It becomes a competition. I mean, the president of the United States is a prime example. Everything is about money, and you need money. You need to make money. Don't get me wrong, but life is not about money. And so what happens is a lot of people end up, all they do is working. I go through phases, like I'm going through one right now where it's 3 months, 4 months of just solid work.
Mhm.
But and I'll bust my ass for, and this may turn into 6 months or a year. I'll bust my ass around the clock, working harder than anybody would ever work. It's like the McDonald's story. But then for the next 7 years, like I did with the travel, I'll coast.
Yep.
So there's a payoff on the other side where people. My dad used to joke when I was doing all that travel, "You're semi-retired. When are you gonna go back to work?" I said, "When the money runs out."
Yeah.
No, but I that's what enables me to do some of these things. A lot of people are trying to quit their job to have this freedom. I've already had the freedom. I've already done what most people would want to do. And a lot of people would say, "Kevin, you're crazy. Why did you do all that travel? You spent $500,000 or maybe $1 million traveling over 7 years." And I probably did if you add it all up. And I bought a lot of stuff for my house and furniture and different things, artwork, nice artworks and stuff. My house is like a little museum of the whole world. And people are like, "You're crazy. You should have just invested that somewhere." And I'm like, "No, never. I would never." Yeah, but you could have $2 million right now. I'm like, "No, but so what? I could make it somewhere else, doing something else." But $2 million is cannot even touch and replace the experience that I had. 'Cause to me, life is about the experiences you have and the people you meet. Those can never be taken away from you. I mean, our times sitting there, we talked at the beginning of this thing about smoking cigars, different things, or the thing, the $1 billion seller summit where there's 15 of us out there and they have that picture. That's something that's going to stay with me and you until the day we die. Versus money doesn't. Money is fleeting. Money comes and it goes, and the things you buy with money, whether it's a car or furniture, that stuff always ends up breaking or falling apart, or you get tired of it, and you move on to something else. But the people, the experiences you have, me going in Antarctica and sitting down amongst a million penguins on this glacier, and they coming all around you, they're as curious about you as you are about them. You can't take that away. Or going into Israel and seeing how these people live, it changes it. All the racial stuff that's going on in the U.S. right now. I used to be a little bit more racial, on some things before I started traveling. It opened my eyes to we're all the same, and it opens your eyes to see how people are different. And the people that I've met, whether it's in this business, people like you, or the people I met when I was traveling, a different place. I met my wife traveling. It's those experiences can never be taken away, and I'll always remember those. I'll always have those. And so that's what people need to focus on more is enjoying. You're only here once, enjoy it, and people say, "Kevin, if you would have saved all that money instead of traveling, look what you could have." I'm like, "Yeah, but who knows where I'll be when if I did the traditional way, wait till I'm 70 years, 60, 70 years old, retire and start traveling then, Who knows? Could I have walked up the Great Wall of China? Could I have gotten in a little rubber boat in Antarctica and gone across? I might not have done that. I might have got hit by a bus and not been able to do any of that. Now I'm going to live for now. I live for the now with an eye towards the future. I don't live in the future and work it backwards. And so I think that's important. Too many people get caught up with money, and you see it even in our business. People throwing off big figures. I'm selling this much and this much, and I can tell you that there's people that are doing $300,000 a year selling on Amazon that are a lot happier than people doing $10 million a year, and a lot more comfortable and a lot more financially stable. So don't get caught up in that. I mean, it's cool to make a lot of money, but at the end of the day, it's what you take home that matters. Make enough to live the life that you want to live, and then live your life. If you're passionate about what you do and you do what you like and you help others, then it'll come, it'll happen. Giving back and help, everybody needs a little helping hand. Everybody needs a little break. Everybody needs someone that's gone before them that can give them a little guidance. And um, that's one of the best things you can do if you are successful is to give back and is to help others. I mean, one of my goals is, once I sell one of my companies for a lot of money and I have some extra sitting there, is I'm going to endow kids to travel. So I think it's super important. They do this in Europe. They don't do it really in the US or Canada as much. Between their high school and college, they take a year and kind of travel a little bit. I think more people need to do that. Get out of their
Yeah.
comfort zone, not go where, going from Canada to the United States is not traveling. It's too similar. You need to go from Canada to Myanmar, where you don't speak the language and you don't understand the culture, you don't know what the food is. That's traveling. And so I want to enable people that might not have those means to do that, to be able to do that and to truly change their outlook on the world and on life.
That's awesome. I know Hayden and my other sons as well, but Hayden went to France in high school, right, Hayden?
Yeah. On exchange for that one, and I mean that affected me back then. But then, just from being a musician too, I mean, I taught in India for a summer, and I think that experience really opened my mind to the world. I mean, even just seeing the disparity in poverty there, and it's right in your face, and just realizing how people can live and the different means of which they live, and there's different ways of seeing happiness too in whatever situation you're in.
I always remember I was in Fiji, and we did this. We were shooting some models in Fiji, and we brought in these fire dancers and stuff. This old man that lived in a shack on the beach, and I remember one night I'm sitting out at our little hotel resort, a small little 20-room resort, or where it was on the beach. I was sitting out there one night. Didn't smoke cigars or anything back then, so didn't miss anything, Norm. But I was sitting out there one night, and this old man comes up to me, and we start talking. And he's like, "We talking about that? How his life is simple, but he's happy. He's right here on the beach. He catches his fish. He doesn't have all the problems that we have, back here in the U.S." And we got into a big discussion about it. And you're right. It's how you choose to live your life, or you don't need physical, material things or money to be happy. And some of the richest people in the world are the most unhappy people. It just invites more problems.
So there are a lot of people that are listening probably don't know you. Well, Amazon people, e-commerce people know you as pretty much the king of Amazon. You know a lot of stuff, Kevin, and you do share. By the way, you're probably one of the most giving people that I know when it comes to sharing and helping people. If somebody asks you questions or to get on a podcast or that, you just open your knowledge base, which is really cool. But one of the things that I want to bring out is, the Amazon side. You started out, and I know that you met Manny Coates, and you guys got together and with Guy and started Illuminati, and that was very successful. And I'm not sure, how did you guys meet?
I met Manny. He he had a podcast he started at the end of 2015, and I started selling on Amazon as a FBA seller in 2015. I was selling on Amazon before that, back to 2001, but not as this model that we all know now of FBA. So I was trying to learn everything I could at the time. I was listening to Scott Volker, and I think Kevin Reiser had a podcast, and there's a few others, and not too many, not like there are now. And Manny had started one. And I started listening to his, and he was kind of like laying out his whole path and his whole thing. I was like, this guy sounds pretty cool and down to earth and telling it kind of like it is. And so he had a little Facebook group. I think they call it the High Rollers or something at the time, or maybe it had a different name. I can't remember. I remember posting in that group, and I think it was like March or so of 2016. And I was waiting in an airport. I was meeting. It's before I got married. Me and my wife were meeting, and her plane was delayed. So I was just checking the Facebook, and someone had posted something. And I was getting tired of people posting wrong information about, this is how things work. And one person says it, and this got parroted with everybody else and became true when it's totally untrue. But I posted something in there like, here's 10 things that you should do to build your listing, or including, put some Spanish keywords or something like that. I forget exactly, but that post got pretty popular. Manny saw it and he was looking for guests for the podcast, so he reached out to me through Facebook. And at the time, I used Facebook for groups, but I had no friends up until about a year and a half ago. Actually, Athena Severi is the one. Kevin, why don't you have any friends? Not even your wife is your friend. And I'm like, I just don't really want to care about sharing what I ate today or anything on Facebook. I just use it for the groups. And then when it became business, I opened it up. Now I think I'm maxed at 5,000. But so I didn't. I'm surprised I even saw the message from Manny, and he's like, "Hey, would you come on the podcast?" Like, no, I'm just keeping my head down. I'm launching 5 brands here, and I'm busy. He's like, "Oh, just come on, man. I'd like to come on." So I went on his podcast in early spring of 2016. It's a pretty bad audio connection. I think I was on my cell phone in the garage. It sounded like I was in a tin can. That podcast became one of his top one or two of all time. I think still is on the AM/PM podcast. It's way up there. And so other people heard that, and then that started me going on some other podcasts. And then Manny and Guy came to me that summer and said, "Hey, would you be interested in? We're going to start this thing called Illuminati Mastermind." I think Ben Cummings at the time had his training, and there's a couple other little more advanced trainings for people already selling, and they wanted to start that. And I'm like, they wanted me to come on for free and just be like a guest or host. So I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not going to do it for free. And so we ended up working with little test webinars, and they went well. They were building Helium 10 at the time. I think it was just Scribbles and Frankenstein, maybe one other tool. It wasn't what it is today. We decided to do Illuminati Mastermind as a monthly training. And I think it started in February of 2017. 200, $300 a month, $400 a month, something like that. And we did a revenue share where I got a piece, they got a piece, and then the company got a piece. And then from that, we ended up doing an event. That's where we met you in
Right.
Cancun in like May of 2017, and then we did another event. And now the Illuminati Mastermind is called. They rolled it into Helium 10. It's called Helium 10 Elite now. So it's kind of an advanced package with the software, and it's basically the same. It's changed a little bit. It used to be a little bit more edgy, I guess you could say, and we can't be quite as edgy now because Helium 10 is a public, big profile company. But that's how it evolved, and so that's how I met Manny. And then we ended up doing, in 2018, the Freedom Ticket started, which is a course for new people. And that evolved out of, I was getting frustrated with all the scammers out there and all the people charging a lot of money or the people doing YouTube videos that don't know what they're doing and teaching other people, and people teaching a formula, find it fits in a shoebox, weighs under this much, and blah, blah, blah. And like, no. So that's why we did the Freedom Ticket. And I went into real detail on building brands and stuff in there. It's very detailed. And now that's rolled into Helium 10. So if you have a Helium 10 membership, you get that for free. You don't even need to pay for it. And so that's my relationship with those guys. They're really good guys. They still have a piece of the company, but they did a really good job building it, and got a nice payday.
You think of it, it's 2020, and we've only known each other since 2017. And what you've done with the Illuminati, now Helium 10 Elite, and seeing what those guys did, Manny and Guy and what they did in a couple of years is incredible. And these are the most humble guys. You too. You don't sit there and you don't hear them talking about, oh, I made this much. Oh, here's my Lamborghini. Here's that. You would sit next to you, and you would just, oh, here's a Coke Zero. Sure, Coke Zero.
Well, I try to treat people like I'd want to be treated. You never know. Take someone like Steve Simonson, for example. He came and spoke at Illuminati Mastermind we did in Hawaii. That's really like the first time I'd met him. I'd seen him on stage. And then now he and I are doing stuff together. And I remember I'd been at an event, and he's a big Diet Coke drinker. So every time I went to get a Coke Zero, I'd bring him a Diet Coke just out of courtesy. But those little things, when you take care of other people, they take care of you. You know,
Right.
there are some backstabbers that don't give a shit,
Yep.
but the vast majority, and if they come back and backstab you, at least you know you were good to them, and it's just you just move on.
Right.
I enjoy being behind. I'm not a big in front of the scenes guy. I don't need all the credit. It's nice to get a pat on the back or get some acknowledgement, but I like being more the guy. You know, I like watching American Idol or Shark Tank or what's it, Shark's Den or no, what's in Canada?
Oh, Dragon's Den.
Dragons Den,
Yes.
Shark Tank in the U.S. or American Idol. And I like seeing somebody that was nothing getting that chance and getting that coaching and getting that opportunity that can exploit it. You know, there's a diamond stuck in all of us, and you just got
Yeah.
to peel back the layers and find out what that diamond is, and then let people do that. You know, whether that's, you know, it's not always go to school, get your degree, go to college, get your degree, go work for a company. No, I mean, maybe I don't know. Hayden, he's a musician. Maybe his thing is music, and he's talented at music. Let him go freaking do music. As long as he is happy and he can survive, and he's not having to live off of you or something. Let him do it. You know, he
Yeah.
doesn't need to go work in a corporate job. But too many people in society, they say this is the rules. When you do this, you do this, you do this. And when you're this age, you do this. When you're this age, you do this. Screw all that, man.
Can't
Live your
agree with
life
you
and
more.
enjoy it.
Yep.
Enjoy it, man.
Absolutely. And you know, it's interesting. We were just going back to what you were talking about with Amazon and learning and going out there and trying to maybe find a new job. And you see all that crap that's out there on YouTube. Oh my gosh. I really feel bad for people that are, let's say it's the COVID thing right now, and people are trying to find new things and they go out to and they're trying to do it inexpensively, and they go out to YouTube and they find all these YouTube videos about, yeah, and it could have been 2 years ago, it could have been 3 years ago, could have been last week, but all the crap that's out there.
Yeah.
And you know, people come to me, I work with Amazon sellers, and I see crap, absolutely crap listings. They think they're doing it great, and where did you learn this? And you know, my point is, if you invest in crap, free YouTube videos, which you know some are probably pretty good, you're going to get crap. But you really do have to invest in yourself. And right now is the perfect timing for people to take a look at Freedom Ticket and get good quality. Yeah, I guess I'm plugging you. There you go. There's a free plug for you. But it's a good quality product that people don't have to worry about. You know, they pay a little bit, but it's quality, and they can learn, and they can, if this is what they want to do, e-commerce, hey, it's a great life. Look at us. We get to work from home. We get to take off when we're not working. But you know, it is a great life, but don't settle on, you know, just finding free crap and thinking that you're getting a great education. There is good stuff out there, but you really do have to make sure that you do the research like you always do. You always preach, do, you know, get data, get research. I think we have to bring that across.
There's a lot of good people out there that know what they're doing, and you can find it out there. And my way is not the only way. It's a way that works for me, and I think I try to give people the knowledge that so they can pave their own way versus saying these are the 10 steps. A lot of people want the easy way. These are
Right.
the 10 steps to riches or whatever. There's no such thing. Those were the 10 steps for one person, but your 10 steps may be totally different. So you need the foundation and the knowledge, and then you can find your own 10 steps.
All right, with everything that's going on right now with COVID and everything else in the world, any advice you have?
Well, I think people need to take COVID seriously. You know, there's people that think it's a conspiracy theory. There's people that are really scared about it. I think there's somewhere in the middle is the truth. I think you need to proceed with caution, but you can't let it rule your life. You know, you can't go cubbyhole up in your house and never come out until Groundhog Day. You need to actually, you know, find a balance to where you can be safe and reasonable. And it's not just about being safe. You may be one of these people like I'm not going to wear a mask. I don't really care, but you just have to keep in mind you're affecting other people that you come in contact to. So you may be innocently murdering somebody else, not really knowing it, and not intending to. That's in today's world, it's completely changed. You know, I think there's going to be a lot of change, at least here in the U.S. We have a political year with the presidential thing. You have the racial inequality thing going on. 2020 is a big year of change, and it's going to be interesting to see how this comes out. But one of those changes relates to the business side is I think you're seeing a shift to where more and more people are going to be working from home, and more businesses are going to be set up to be doing what we've been doing. They're realizing, hey, this actually works. We don't need everybody to come to an office and pay the overhead. I think you're going to see a lot of retail companies. Some of them are already going out of business, but some of them are going to have to adapt and change. Restaurants are going to change. But from our perspective, from e-commerce, there's never a better time. I mean, Amazon's blowing up. I mean, they had a huge bump with the COVID. They're only continuing to grow, and it's not just Amazon. The stuff that's happening with Shopify's partnerships with Facebook and Walmart, it's just e-commerce is going to continue to explode. So if you're able to take advantage of that, uh, then this is a great time. Some people say, is it too late? Did I miss the golden opportunity? No, it's not too late. Is it as easy as it was 5 years ago? Absolutely not. 5 years ago, you could find something off Alibaba, throw it on Amazon or Shopify, drive some traffic to it, and make a lot of money. You can't do that anymore. You need to create a brand. Hey, I just started a company with over $1 million invested. Not everybody can do that. A lot of people, may have 5 or 10,000. That's okay. You just got to lower your expectations that you're not going to become a millionaire for a while when you start a company with 5 or 10,000. But you may make enough money that you're happy that you either can support your family, or if not, you get some extra cash to pay off some bills or go on a nice vacation or whatever your goal is. So, but it's a great opportunity right now out there especially for e-commerce. And when society has a big change like it does now, and there's the guy at Wizard of Ads. I don't know if he's got 3 books on Amazon, the Wizard of Ads series, and then he's got a big castle here in Austin where I live that he brings people in and trains. But he's got one book, I forget the exact name of it, but you could probably look it up on Amazon. But the premise, his name's Roy Williams. If you look up Roy Williams books on Amazon, you'll find it. But the premise is that I think it's every 20 years is a pendulum shift, and every 40 years there's a bigger shift, and every 80 years there's a major shift. We're in one in the middle of those right now. So things are changing in the way people believe and the way society believes. We go from me too to we too, or it's different. And so right now you're on the cusp of one of those, and so there's great opportunity if you can identify what that is from a personal point of view and from a business point of view. Nothing is going to stay the same, and you got to be willing to adapt and roll with it.
For Kevin King, what does the future hold?
Well, the future right now for me is I'm launching a couple of new companies. My goal in one of these companies is to actually be able to sell it for a significant money, so that my target goal is I want to be able to have $10 million that I can just set aside, invest in a very modest way, so that I know that no matter what happens in the world, I'm totally okay. And right now I don't have that $10 million sitting just on the side. We'll get there. We're on the way. But so one of the quickest ways to do that is to build an Amazon-based e-commerce company and sell it in 2 or 3 years. So that's one of the goals right now, and then I can do what the heck I want to do. I'm still doing what the heck I want to do, but then I can do it with knowing that if I got hit by a bus, everything would still be okay. My wife would be okay, my dogs would be okay, everything would be okay. I'd be okay. So that's my goal, and then I want to be able to give back and get back to traveling more once everything opens back up. There's still some places in this world I want to go, and some places I want to revisit, and some places I want to experience with my wife that I experienced by myself, but now bring her and have a whole new experience with someone else you love.
Let's talk about your wife for a second. So you mentioned earlier on very briefly that you met your wife traveling. Can you get into that? It's an interesting story. You told me about this before.
Sure. Yeah. One of the places when I was doing all that traveling for those 7 years, I went to a trade show in LA for movie locations, and so all these different houses, mansions, back lots, countries would come and have booths and saying, "Come shoot in our country. We'll give you incentives or whatever." And one of them was Colombia. This was 2009. And I was like, Colombia, I always thought Colombia was a bunch of drug dealers and, the cartel and Pablo Escobar and all that stuff. Hell no, I'm not going to Colombia. Uh, and, but these people at this booth, I was there looking for locations for our calendars business and stuff. And I was like, this actually looks pretty cool. I'm going to go to Colombia. Just go for like 4 or 5 days, go to Bogota and Cartagena, 2 of the main cities, and just see how it is. And people thought I was crazy. Like, you're crazy, man. It's not safe. I'm like, yeah, it should be all right. So I went to Colombia, and I found a guy on the internet to be my guide. And he was supposed to be my guide. And something happened where he had to leave Cartagena and go to Bogota. So he's like, hey, my office girl is going to pick you up at the airport. So I get to the airport expecting this office girl, and it's just some dude in a taxi, there to get me. The next day, they're taking me around, showing me the sights, and the main guide, he was still out of town. I was supposed to have taken care of me, and he calls up his office girl and says, "Hey, would you mind seeing if this guy wants to do anything? Take care of him." So this girl calls me and says, "Hey, is there anything you want to do?" It's like, "No, no, I'm not going to inconvenience you or whatever. I'll be fine." The next day, she comes to the hotel, organize a day trip. I was supposed to go out on a boat to go snorkeling and see these dolphins and stuff off the coast of Colombia and Cartagena. And she came to the hotel to help organize that and took me to the dock to make sure I found my way. And when we're at the dock, have a fun time. Everything's set. Here's your tickets. I'm like, "No, you come with me, right?" She's like, "No, no, I got to go back to the office." She's dressed in a dress and the wrong shoes for a boat and everything. This is a speedboat with like 30 people in it that takes you out to this place. And I convinced her to go. And she calls her boss and he's like, "Well, if he's paying for it, go ahead." So she comes with me and we had a nice day. And that night we decided I wanted to go eat. And actually I wanted to go get I collect things from different countries, and Colombia is known for emeralds. So I wanted to go get some emeralds. And so she took me to this emerald store, and I said, I was negotiating for this little rock, emerald rock, and they had a little ring over there. I said, "Well, if I buy this rock, will you give her that ring?" And they're like, "No, no, not that one." I was like, "Well, can she pick something else out that she likes?" So I'm like, "Okay, okay." So I buy this little emerald rock, and she gets to pick out a little ring, and I just gave it to her. And then we went to dinner, had a nice dinner, and then I told her that I'm going to learn Spanish, and I'll come back in a year, and I'll speak to you for 15 minutes in Spanish. And she's like, "Okay, I'm gonna hold you to that." Well, I didn't think anything of it. I was just whatever. Nothing happened. This was just she was just the office girl. I leave from Colombia, and we kept briefly in touch, email here or there. I sent her an email, said, "Thanks, it was nice meeting you." She sent me a few emails. She sent me one on my birthday. I was like, "How did she remember my birthday?" And then comes close to the year 2010 when I'm supposed to go back and speak in Spanish. She messaged me. I'm on a plane going to Israel, actually, sitting on on the runway, and she's like, "You told me you're coming back to Israel to speak Spanish. I expect you to come back." I'm like, I don't know. All right, I'll come back. I don't know Spanish good enough yet to speak 15 minutes in conversation all in Spanish. So I ended up going back. The rest is now we're married.
Yes, you are.
So yeah, there's more. There's a little more in that story too. That we ended up taking a trip to Rio de Janeiro for Carnival, but she's a lawyer, so we did long distance for 7 years. She stayed in Colombia, I stayed in the States, and she couldn't get a visa to come here for a couple years because visas for a lot of countries you can't just hop on a plane like we can as like Canadians or Americans and just go wherever we want. Kind of. I mean, there's a few countries like India, some that require visas, but for them, it's here's your 10 countries in the world you can go to. The rest of them, you got to tell us, in advance, get a visa. So it was difficult to get a visa, but we would meet in Panama or we'd meet in Colombia or we'd meet in Peru or somewhere during her breaks. Or I'd go down there for a weekend. I'd fly down on Friday, see her for 7 hours on Saturday, and fly back on Sunday, once a month or whatever. And we did that for 7 years. And now, well, she lives here now. We got married in 2017 in Colombia, and then.
I thought you only did that for me.
Well, if you had some Kobe beef and you say, "Kevin, tomorrow
I know
night
you would
we
go.
got some Kobe beef, fly into Toronto and drive up," I'd be like,
Absolutely.
"All right, man, let me call the plane."
We've done that a few times.
I've actually taken a trip just to Japan to eat Kobe beef. I remember the first time Norm and I were in. I've been talking about Kobe beef. For those of you that don't know, Kobe beef is, you may have heard of it, but there's the authentic is from Japan, and you can only get it in Japan. And you'll see it on the menus in the U.S. and places say they have Kobe beef, but it's probably Wagyu. It's really not Kobe. It's kind of like saying Dr. Pepper is Coke or something. They're both sodas, but they're not the same. And so to get the real Kobe beef, these are cows from the Kobe region of, Japan, where they do all kinds of special feed for them and special treatments, and the beef is just so tender and so it's like out of this world good, and it's expensive. It's $30 an ounce or something like that. It's not cheap. And so we were in Vegas a few years ago, and I'm like, "Norm, let's go get some Kobe beef." He's like, "What's that, man?" Norm likes to eat, like I like to eat, so I'm like, "Oh, just come on, man, we'll try it." So we get there, and he's just kind of like, it's like monkey see, monkey do. It's like, "I'm gonna order 8 ounces of this." He's like, "Oh, is that what I should order?" It's like, "Well, keep in mind this is going to be like $300 for this little steak. So are you okay? He's like, just don't tell my wife, and I'll be okay. So we all we order a bunch, and I can just see the eyes rolling back in Norm's head. His eyes just like, holy cow, this is like almost better than sex. This is, whoa, wow, this is amazing. And so now every time we're in Vegas, and Vegas is one of the only cities in the U.S. where you can get, it's actually Wagyu there, but it's A5 Wagyu. And I told Norm, it's like, look, you got to make sure this is real, because a lot of places say they have it, and it's bullshit. It's not really from Japan. It's like, well, how do you know? I said, ask for the birth certificate. He's like, what? I said, yeah, if it's real, they have to bring out the birth certificate of the cow in the restaurant. They'll have it, one for each little carton that they get. So the guy brings out the birth certificate, has the nose print of the cow on it, has the date he was born, the date he was slaughtered, and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, all right. So now every time we're in Vegas, it's Kobe beef time.
And we've done it every time we get together.
And I've actually flown to Japan just to eat it. And I was on the way back from Australia one time. I could have flown Australia directly to the U.S. But I was like, nope, I'm going to take a side trip, go to Tokyo. I got to Tokyo 9 o'clock at night, something like that. Dropped my bags in the hotel, ran to the restaurant that had 10 o'clock reservations at, or whatever it was. It's on like the 52nd floor of a building in downtown Tokyo, and had a really nice Kobe beef meal where they cook it at your table for you, and it's just amazing. And flew back out the next morning. That's how much I like Kobe beef.
Well, buddy, at the end of every episode, I have one question that I like to ask our guests, and that's if they know a guy.
I know a lot of guys, but I also know a lot of gals, and I think something that would be very, very interesting is, instead of getting another guy that I know that maybe is successful in business or has an interesting story, that's all cool, but there's a lot of those. Why don't you get, in the case of a guy, the girl that's behind the guy? Because a lot of times us guys can't do what we do unless we have a strong, supportive, loving girl behind us. And a lot of times they have a different perspective on how things are going, and can tell you some very interesting stories that will actually, we all can learn from. And you take, for example, we talked earlier about Manny Coates and Helium-10. His girlfriend Marianne, that's been with him for a long time, she sold a little bit on Amazon. She has been there the whole time. I think she would have some very interesting perspective, and can tell some really cool, fascinating stories about what it took and what she saw in him and what they went through, from her eyes, not from Manny's eyes, to actually build what they were able to build in such a short amount of time.
That is really cool, Kevin. I like it. So yeah, that would be fantastic. I'd love to have Marianne on.
I'll do. You know what I'll do is I'll reach out to her and see if I can make that happen for you.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir.
No
So,
problem.
Mr. King, thank you for being on the podcast.
Are we done? We've only been here 6 hours.
I know. You know what? And we could go another 6.
Hayden's like, damn, man, I'm hungry, man.
I know.
He's like, oh shit, I gotta edit this. This is like 4 podcasts in one. I gotta edit. Damn, man. He's like, oh man.
But you know what? This is what I love. Meeting great people, forming a great friendship. You could just talk forever. So I can't wait to bump into you at some event somewhere around the world.
Yeah, cigars are ready. So I see Kevin there. So are you going to go smoke a cigar with Kevin, Norm?
Absolutely. Matter of fact, Kevin and I are going to go out right after this and enjoy a cigar. What kind of cigar would you like, Kevin?
I would like a Romeo and Juliet, please.
Okay, we'll do that.
Awesome, man. It's been great being on here, Norm. I appreciate it, man.
Hey, thanks for coming on, Kev.
We'll see you soon, man.
That concludes part 2 of our interview with Kevin King. Make sure to tune in next time, where we have Todd Snively on the show. Todd is another one of those serial entrepreneur types. However, we spend most of the episode going over how his life totally fell apart at one point, and his long, arduous journey of putting it back together, all the way up to being one of the top sellers on Shopify. So make sure to tune in and check that one out. That's enough of me, and I'll see you next time.